Laura, Chichi. Welcome to the Novel of Interest podcast.
Hey, Matt. Thanks for having us.
Great to be here.
Yeah. So y'all are here talking about Ladies Let's Talk. You're a nonprofit. Is there a 10,000 foot view of that organization that y'all could give, or like an elevator pitch so people know?
Well, Ladies Let's Talk is a nonprofit here that was founded in Austin, Texas, and we work with refugee and immigrant women to help them find belonging here in the United States. That's my pitch.
Yeah.
Uh,
And how does it help you? How does it help those ladies find belonging?
Well, I think we focus on giving them a friend to talk with. We bring women together. It's just for women only, ladies. And we bring them together to meet other women volunteers here in the United States and to make a friend and to also practice their English. All of our learners are learning to speak English, and so this gives them a chance to actually use it and make mistakes with a friend and learn from their mistakes and start to feel that self-confidence you need to have to go out into the world, into this new world of America that you're in, and use the English that you've got to answer questions and get to know people.
Yeah. Was there a inciting incident or a certain domino that fell for y'all that started this foundation? Or that got you, or got the ball rolling in your minds to start doing this work?
Well, why don't you go ahead, Laura, and tell them
Sure.
about Open Sesame?
Yeah. So this really started with another nonprofit in Austin called Hope and Sesame that was founded by Lori Orman and Jeannie Van de Zandt. And Hope and Sesame was a nonprofit that was focused on helping refugee women share their culture with communities through food, while also supporting them economically through selling tickets to these big community events. So I was doing my own work in refugee resettlement in Austin, and I joined Hope and Sesame as a board member. So at these dinners, we had a lot of our attendees were really interested and inspired after coming to these dinners, and they wanted to get involved with the refugee community. And so as an organization, we said, well, how can we increase our impact more refugee women, while also holding to our mission of connecting people through food. So at that time, I was an ESL teacher in Austin, and I had a lot of the students in my classrooms. I was always struck by the fact that so many of the women in my classes particularly did not know a single American woman. They had been here for 4 or 5 years, and they had
Wow.
never met another woman outside of maybe their caseworker or their teacher. And so we decided, let's bring these people who had attended our dinners and were really interested in what we were doing together with these students in our English programs, women, and we'll have coffee and food, sticking with our mission at Hope and Sesame. So that's how we started. We started in person at a YMCA, just bringing women together. And Chichi was one of our first volunteers, actually, who came to our program at that time. And so Hope and Sesame the co-founders decided to do something else. And so they were stepping away. And we as a board, I was on the board of Hope and Sesame, said, okay, well, do you think there's any one of our volunteers who might be interested in keeping Ladies Let's Talk going? And so Chichi,
Open Sesame going.
or well, Ladies Let's Talk was a program within Hope and Sesame, so keeping that
right.
part of the program going. And Chichi, we all said Chichi because she was just so passionate and so fun, and we said, Chichi, would you be interested in carrying this forward? And of course she jumped right in and said, she said, Laura, will you help me? And I said, well, I'll help you get it going. Sure. And here we are 7 years later. So that was how we sort of originated, and Chichi came really in as the big, we're co-founders, but Chichi is really the big energy that has made this and grown this organization. So that's how we started.
Chichi, what about the program really gave you that energy and got you really excited about caring for those refugees?
Well, I went to one of these dinners and was really impressed by the refugee women who were there and what they had gone through. And I asked if I could help, and they talked about this conversation thing they were going to have. And I thought, oh, how hard can that be? Just having a conversation. No one's going to ask me for money. No one's going to ask me to do something physical, but I can talk. So I just went to the program and fell in love with everybody who was there. Fell in love, particularly with the learners who came, and wanted to continue to go it and continue doing it, and kept bugging them all summer long, saying, "When are you going to do it again?" And then they said, "Well, why don't you run it?" So I said, "Okay." And thank goodness that Laura came and said she'd help. And so we got together in person. I found a church that would give us free space. Laura got the students to come. We called our friends and asked our friends to come. And we started out with about 12 learners and 12 volunteers back in um, September of 2018, I think it was September, October 2018.
So you started with 12 people 7 years ago, and now you have 1,000 volunteers, if I read that correctly on like the info sheet.
We have more like 1,400 volunteers now. And we started with 12 learners, and we have over 1,700 learners now, all across and both groups are all across the United States. And yeah, it's most of the growth has been in the last 3 years. There was a period of time when the growth slowed down, and we began to wonder if we were going to continue to have learners. We were just in Austin at that point in time. We'd gone through COVID and we're now online. And so we had a lot of people said, "Oh, I don't want to be online. I want to be in person." So we reached out through several means to make a little more, give a little more visibility to our organization. We went to findhelp.com and posted information there about our opportunities. And we went to justserve.com and posted something there for volunteers who might be interested in coming. And that just has really driven up the number of people who've been coming to us. And it's driven up. We haven't, people say to me, "Well, what have you done to make yourself come up at the top of all the search engines?" And I said, "Well, nothing." Because people were going to justserve.com and then telling their friends, and it's really all been word of mouth. And we expect that by the end of August, we'll have probably 2,000 volunteers and probably 3,000 learners. So it just keeps growing and growing. So that's the biggest challenge we have right now, I think, is handling this growth.
Yeah, and so what's the plan for navigating that challenge?
Well, we've been working on several different approaches. The first approach, of course, is to provide more bandwidth to our programs. We started out with just having one conversation session a week, and now we have six, three on Thursday night and three on Friday mornings. And we also have added two other programs. One is a pronunciation program where we help learners with some of the harder parts of English, pronouncing things. And we are now up to, um, we're able to serve about 45 people a week. And then we have a third program, which is called English Practice Partners, where we match a learner and a volunteer and ask them to get together on their own. Laura runs that program. And we've gone from having maybe 12 pairs to most recently 200 and what's the number, Laura?
126. So we have
226 pairs now.
452 participants in this
Yeah.
5-week session. We rotate our conversation sessions, run for 5 weeks. And those are our group conversation sessions. And then we spin off and do 5 weeks of the one-to-one matching program. And that's sort of how we cycle through the year. So
So there's
So we're working on more capacity in our programs. But to do that, we do that with volunteers. We have to do training of people who will facilitate the conversation programs. So we call them pilots and co-pilots to fly the plane when we do our conversations, and teach them how to deal with Zoom technical issues and how to make breakout rooms and so forth. We had to streamline how we did things. Each week we have a different topic and we have a different presentation, and Laura puts those together. And then for the pronunciation group, they needed to add more trained volunteers. They use primarily speech language pathologists to run that program. And so they're reaching out to find more speech language pathologists across the United States who can participate in that program. But above all, it's getting more volunteers and getting more learners to go with the fact that the learners group is growing. And more people means a lot more phone calls, texts, emails, questions to the website, questions from groups like Novel Ventures saying, will you come and speak? So that whole administrative piece is it's really a challenge to us right now. We're for the last year we've been really working on getting a better database system that's more user friendly, getting help with fundraising because all this stuff costs money, and getting to the point where we can no longer be a working board, but can be a more traditional board that's focusing on strategic change, raising money, and paying for hired staff. Right now, we have one full-time staff person to do all these things, and otherwise, it's all handled primarily by Laura and I, and we're full-time volunteers for the organization. And we're not doing the organization justice by not looking to that part of the future, was how to make Ladies Let's Talk be an organization that's going to be here in 10 or 20 years and will still be achieving its mission of helping immigrant and refugee women find belonging.
I ask this as someone from the South. When you mention pronunciation coaches, do the learners end up talking like they're from the South, the West, the North? I'm very interested. The Midwest would also be fascinating.
Yeah, I don't think so. They really they hear the differences in
Uh,
our volunteers. We've got Texas accents too,
yeah.
you know, so in Tennessee, and I've got an East Coast accent and a Midwestern accent, and no, it's we focus more on what's called standard American English. I think is what our pronunciation group focuses on, and they're dealing with problems that our learners have from their first language, where their first language never had a th sound in it, and as a consequence, they don't have any of the musculature in
Mm.
the tongue and the lips, and the breathing may not be right. So the speech language pathologists, they just eat this up because it's like, oh, and I get to work with adults because most of their career has been spent working with kids in the public school system. So they really enjoy working with our learners because well, all our volunteers enjoy working with our learners because we learn so much about the world from these other ladies. They bring so much information to us. It's like taking a trip every time you get together with them and you start to learn about how they do baby showers in Afghanistan or how they celebrate weddings in Ecuador. It's just like all over the world. And every week you learn something new because every week you're together with someone else in our conversation classes.
Mm.
And then in the English Practice Partners program, you get together several times in a row over a 5 week period of time, and you get to make a friend with an individual from Ecuador or wherever, and get a little deeper understanding of that culture. So it's a fabulous cultural opportunity for our volunteers. And then we have volunteers like me who are language geeks, and we just love talking about how crazy the English language is and where did that word come from. And I was talking with someone today about the word bear. There's, you know, there's bear skin, there's the animal bear, there's bearing weight, there's we were talking about bearing a mark on the finger.
Mhm.
And It's always so crazy talking about that, and you can always say, "Well, that's English."
Yeah, yeah. Do you teach them the word y'all? As someone who uses it all the time.
That's a great question. I don't think we've actually, I think early when we were focused on just Austin learners, we definitely talked about the you all combined as
Uh-huh.
y'all. Because yeah, when you live in Texas, you're right. And
Yes.
even when you're not from Texas, when I first moved to Texas, I all of a sudden started saying y'all because it's a very
Yeah,
convenient word. Yeah,
it is. English doesn't have a you plural.
right?
And I don't want Chichi sounds like the expert here, but one of my soapboxes is y'all is grammatically correct. It's just, looked down upon.
Well, the thing is that it's a contraction. All right, now this is going to be the English part. Okay,
Oh, go.
this is your English lesson. It's a contraction, and we have a contraction in the title of our organization. Let us. And I was giving a speech to a group of learners last week, and I was using the title of our organization for the structure of my speech, each word, and so I had to tell them, "Let us." And then you go, wait a minute, maybe they don't understand what the word let means. And so then we had to talk about let. And so for a language geek, you just love having these
Yeah.
conversations.
Yeah,
So it's great fun.
I hear that. So what I winding back a little bit, I heard you say is you have one full-time person for an organization that serves 1,400 people. And like in a personal way, you're not just driving down the street throwing them English packets. Like you personally care for these people, but the full-time staff ratio is 1 to 1,400.
It's actually more like 1 to 3,000.
Okay. All right. That's wild.
Yeah. Now, of those 3,000, not all of them are participating in our programs.
Okay.
It's more like 1,000 that are probably actually showing up for a conversation or a pronunciation workshop or something like that. But you're right. That's our biggest challenge, and it's the thing we pride ourselves on is you can't make somebody feel belonging if you don't talk to them directly.
Oh my
If you
gosh.
don't, say, "I hear you." Um, and the other thing to understand, and that's true for volunteers as well. Volunteers sign up. Many volunteers have had some pretty negative experiences being volunteers, as Laura and I have had. And so, one of the things we said when we started this is our focus is on volunteers and learners. So,
Mm,
whether they're a volunteer or a learner, they send us an email. We try to get back to them
yeah.
within a couple hours as soon as we see it and try to give them their answer. Um, Volunteers have been treated badly. And then learners, of course, many of our learners are facing, t- um, they're scared right now, very scared right now, because a good portion of our learners are probably relatively new here to the country and are here on asylum applications or student visas or they're not citizens, in other words.
Yeah.
And so they're very nervous about what is going to be happening to them. Now, we don't ask anyone their immigration status. We just ask that they say that they need help
Yeah.
speaking English. Um, but we know that there's just a huge variety out there as to why people are here, but we're not interested in that. We're just interested in making them feel good about being here and
Mm,
comfortable and being a friend. Um, and we really try to focus on the fact that women in particular are isolated by English language much more so than the men and the children are. Family comes over here, the kids go to school and start speaking English. They're immersed in it and they
yeah.
got those nice young brains and they can just grab it all. Dad goes to work and most of the time he's going to be around other people who are speaking English and there's and so he can start to pick up English. But mom is home. Everybody comes home at the end of the day and the kids are talking in English. Mom hasn't a clue what they're talking about. And because they're very respectful of their parents, the kids will talk in the home language, in the first language to mom. So mom doesn't make any traction in learning English. It's really hard, even if she's trying to take some online courses or she's found an ESL course to go to. So our programs really help in that we give them 90 minutes to be an English speaking person. They speak English, they start to think in English, and they start to build that self-confidence that they can do this. And hopefully that self-confidence will lead them to say, well, I can take an ESL class, or I can go out and get a job at Walmart where I will be able to talk English to some clients or customers who would be there.
Yeah.
So that's what we're trying to achieve. And it's been interesting because we get a lot of volunteers who are second generation, and they say, I'm doing this because of my mom.
Mm,
My mom was so unhappy. She was so isolated, and I
mm,
want to give back. My parents gave so much to me. I want to give back to women who were like my mom. So it's just a really warms your heart to
yeah.
see that.
Yeah. And something I've heard you say now a couple times is it's important to y'all to have the difference between just teaching someone English, talking to them, and then the that is not what you're hoping for. That's like a low bar. What you're hoping for is to help them feel like they belong, which is a much higher bar. Can you give me some context on what made y'all decide that and aim for this instead of just, hey, let's get them speaking in English?
Laura, you handle that.
Oh, sure. Well, I guess, when we think about the words, um, when we think about that word belonging, like what does belonging really mean? And to us, it means you feel safe. So, we've created this space where it's only for women, and the women who join here, who are volunteers, understand that they're here to hold that safe and trusted space for women. Belonging means you feel seen and you feel valued within your community. So it's just really knowing that you have a place where your presence, your voice, and your story matter. That's what belonging really means to us. So it's more than just speaking the language, but it's feeling confident in sort of navigating your environment, in building personal connections. So many of these women have left all their sisters, their friends, their moms behind. So it's also about building that those personal connections. So that's why belonging is so central to our mission. That it's not just about speaking English, but it is about all these other things that are part of belonging in your neighborhood, belonging in your community, and belonging in this country. So
It's interesting that when we first got started in fall of 2018, the focus was just I'm sorry about that, just on English. And then a year or two or so later, we did a strategic planning session and kind of reworked and said, is this exactly what we want to say based on the experiences we had? And we realized that really it was belonging is what we were making happen. And the English part was just sort of a tool
yeah.
for getting for that feeling of belonging. And so we changed our mission statement at that point and just really tightened it up just to be simple and to the point of what we're trying to achieve.
Yeah. There's a buddy of mine who actually lives in that building, and he's here on a visa. And at one point, he was talking about someone else one of his friends who's on a visa, and he said, "Oh, and she gets it." And I said, "Well, what do you mean she gets it?" And he goes, "Well, we left, Laura, to your point, like, we left our entire family to come here, and we didn't have any friends, we didn't know anybody." And this is someone I think he's been here in the States for 4 years now. It's a while. And I just kind of assumed, oh, if I was somewhere for 4 years, I'd have a few friends and that would be enough. But he, when he said the word everything, I think you used that same word, Laura, that it's a big deal. And it's not just his ability to communicate with people, it's all those things you just described, like connecting with people. I think one of y'all said feeling heard and seen, which is I don't think we give that enough credit just culturally.
It's really interesting talking with our learners about their culture because there's a real difference in some of the cultures, particularly the Eastern cultures, the Middle East, where the the culture is very collective. It's very much family, and so when you come over here to the United States, which is very individualistic, it's a huge shock. And I mean, you are not, if you're in a collectivistic society, you are taught, very carefully taught, that the other is to be feared, and that the only people you can really rely on are your family. When you come over here to the United States, we're suddenly talking about how we embrace the others, we embrace everyone. And many people have bad relationships with their family, and they have friends Thanksgiving. What are they, Friendsgiving instead of Thanksgiving,
Yeah.
because it's so different over here. And that's just a huge adjustment for our learners to make. And so I think that what we're doing really helps with that, make
Yeah.
that transition.
Yeah. So can you give me some examples of how y'all have seen that transition happen for someone going from thinking, hey, like my identity is based in being part of this big group, big culture, and then opening up to the idea that those who are different from me also want me to be part of their culture and really care about me.
Well, there's a couple people I think we could talk about who've been in through our program, and one is a woman named Maria, and she came from Afghanistan. It's probably 8 years ago, 9 years ago now. She was a refugee from Afghanistan. And very early on in our program, she started conversation. Boy, I think it might have been that first fall. I think Maria was there. And she had a lot of ambition to get ahead. She was a mom of 5 kids, 4 or 5 kids, I think. Her husband had been a lawyer in Afghanistan, and of course, over here he was nothing. He drove a Uber, and they had kids to support. And she was determined to first get her high school diploma. And so, with the help of a number of volunteers from Ladies Let's Talk who helped her with math and writing and all that sort of stuff, she went through an adult high school program here and graduated. Then she got her citizenship, and now she's working for an organization that does childcare. She runs like a childcare center. And I think she's starting to study at Austin Community College. Um, but at the same time, she's doing this stuff that's individualistic. She's still got one foot in her own culture. She's still really important for her to observe Ramadan, to have the family together, to support the family. Um, and so it's really interesting as a volunteer to be privy to that, to have a chance to see another woman navigate that type of change in their life. And I think that's why um, it's really important to me that these women, yes, be able to navigate the United States, but keep their culture, still be able to contribute to my life by teaching me about their culture and teaching me about the value of their culture. One of the biggest groups of people we've dealt with since we've been doing this have been refugees from Afghanistan and women from Afghanistan. And one of the things that I couldn't understand initially was why they have so many children. Don't they know about birth control, is what some of our volunteers would say. And it took me a long time, years, to start to really understand from their point of view why that was such an important thing to them. And it all has to do with when I would ask them, they say, well, that's my wealth. My children are my wealth. But it's really more than that. It's what you show to the society, that you have a successful marriage, that you're able to have lots of children, that you are earning good money so you can support all these children. And it is something that as a woman, you've never seen anything different than this. I mean, your mother did this, your daughters or your sisters have done this, your aunts have done this. Anything else is what the other people do. And that's weird. So it's a real challenge to come over here where we are so different from some of these cultures. I think that some of the women who come from more Western cultures like South America or even Central America, who've been living in cities and so forth, it's a little easier for them. Certainly, English is easier because you recognize the characters of the letters. Um, and so it's a little their transition is a little faster, but we try to focus on valuing their culture. It's you need that in order for you to feel of value.
Mm,
Is to if someone's saying, "Oh no, there's um, I can't think of good examples of we're trying to get them to do things that are so different from the way they're used to it. It's okay, I feel, to show them that and say that this is the norm here in the United States, but where you're coming from is still good too.
hmm
And I think that's what our volunteers really like. They want to hear about all this good stuff from these other cultures. They want to, it's more than trying the food. It's putting a hijab on and saying, well, what do I look like with a hijab? And um, uh, oh, I don't know. I can't think of any other examples, Laura. Maybe you can, but that's really important to us is valuing where they come from.
Yeah, definitely. And so in our conversation sessions, we we facilitate our conversation sessions. So we always provide a topic that is interesting to women, and we always, as part of our conversation questions, we always ask women to share about their home culture. So it's one of the ways that we connect. We want our volunteers to share how they do American culture because that looks different for everyone, but we also invite our learners to share about their home culture. So it's again an equal exchange. That's what we're always hoping for in these um, in the in the Ladies Let's Talk. We really started this bringing women together as equals. And so that's a really important part of what we do is allowing women to share their stories. And we do orientations with our volunteers, so they're prepared, and we always ask them to approach these conversations with curiosity and with an open mind, an open heart, and as a learning experience for them. And it really truly is. It's always fascinating. So
yeah.
Really hard for the learners because every day they're reminded of the fact that they aren't good enough, that they
Mm.
don't speak English, that they can't understand what anyone's saying, and they can't read the signs. They might as well be deaf, dumb, and blind. And so when they come to our sessions, our conversation sessions, they're practical. Some of them have been in tears at the end
Oh,
of the very first one, and they say, I'm just so lonely here, and you guys have made me feel so welcome, even though I don't speak English very well. And we go, oh yes, you do. Listen to you. You're talking English right now.
yeah,
What more do you want? That's great. And and so that's why that is so important to us, this whole evenness of it's just English is just a tool. You just need to get better at, and you'll get there. You're doing great, and encourage them.
yeah. I heard a really heard a really great stand-up bit a couple weeks ago about when you're in other countries speaking their language, they always compliment you. You know, like if you're in a Spanish-speaking country or if you're over in Asia, like, oh, you speak Chinese, that's incredible. And then people come here and not their first language and they like ask for directions and we just go, oh, it's over there. And we just keep on. Like
yeah,
none of us stop and go, oh my gosh, you speak English. That's
yeah,
incredible.
yeah.
It's very hard to learn.
Right, right. Or
Yeah.
you're trying, or just the fact that you're trying, like, oh my gosh, that's
Yes.
great. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
We do a
Yeah.
lot of this self-confidence building in our programs because women, and there are a lot of women who speak amazing English, and yet they don't want to leave their apartment because they're too nervous. They're nervous about talking to Americans. They're worried that we're going to insult them or their English isn't perfect enough. And to your point that we won't appreciate it or yeah, they'll just feel terrible. So we do a lot of like, yeah, confidence building, saying you can do this. Your English is great. Everybody's going to understand you. Don't be afraid. But people see things in the news and they get worried that Americans that we're not welcoming, that we don't want them here,
Mhm.
and that's just really not the truth. And
Yeah. Because there wasn't a viral post about someone coming into a restaurant not from America and everyone going, oh, we're glad you're here.
right,
That didn't make the news.
That did not make the news. That's a
Yeah.
great point.
A healthy interaction with like your Uber driver from Afghanistan didn't make the news.
Yeah, thank
No
you.
one posted on TikTok about that.
Right. Right. Yep. So you can see where that nervousness comes from, especially right now, that
Yeah.
trepidation. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I
it's
can
more
imagine.
important. Yeah, it's more important than ever. And that's when we tell our volunteers, we do regular volunteer orientations, and we just say it is more important than ever. And all of you watching, volunteer, you can do something. And I tell our volunteers it's 90 minutes, and you think it's only 90 minutes. What am I doing? But I cannot even tell you how much that
Mm,
90 minutes means to our learners. We do a lot of surveys and we get a lot of feedback from learners, and just those conversations make women feel so good. It makes them feel so much better. It makes them feel so much less alone. So it's a small
mm,
thing that we do by coming together, or may seem like a small thing, but it's a really, really important thing.
yeah. And something else I heard you say is it's not just serving the women who are refugees or women who've immigrated here, it's also serving the volunteers in the fact that there's a cultural exchange, they're getting to know someone and they're connecting. And that's what, especially when we talk about might, but just in general, that's a soapbox that I have is in the US, so many people struggle with feeling lonely, like they don't have a sense of purpose, like they're not really connected. And I think there's a lot of people who just don't know. A big answer to that is volunteering,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
right? That is a easy way of feeling connected, an easy way of getting that sense of purpose.
But you have to find a good volunteer experience because there are some out there, and we could go into that. But I think for our volunteers, many of them have been very frustrated with what has been going on with the whole immigrant and refugee business. And
Hmm.
that's kind of what started our original organism when we first got started. There were a lot of people who were interested in doing something concrete about it, more than advocacy, more than writing a check, but actually having an impact on your life and the life of someone else. And so now we get a lot of we had a lot of volunteers sign up in January of this year when all the executive orders went out. And
Hmm.
it sort of slowed down a little bit right now, but I think for our volunteers, they come away from one of these conversations and they say, "This is the best part of my week." And we have we have women of all ages who volunteer with us. But and I'll meet women who are my age, which is 70 plus, and they'll say, "Oh, I can't do that." And I go, "How hard is it? You just sit in your pajamas in front of your computer and talk for 90 minutes, and you'll learn so much, and it'll make your day, and it'll make the day of the women that you're talking with." So it's such an easy and we try to make it so easy. You don't even have to sign up for one day at a time, and if you don't show up, we won't slap you. you know so it's we try to just make it really easy so that they come and they see how rewarding it is to be involved in this process, and they'll come back, and they do.
Yeah, I think volunteering for some people can feel intimidating because they feel like they have to make this long-term commitment, and they have busy
Mm,
lives, and or they're retired and they're traveling, or they're students and they have class. But that's really how we built this organization, to be so flexible, because we are volunteers ourselves and have been. And so we know how important it is to be women to be able to drop in. You get to sign up every week if it works for you. If it doesn't work for you, that's okay. So that flexibility, knowing you're not making a long-term commitment, you can come and go as your schedule sees fit. So that's the beauty. Also, of virtual is that, I had a volunteer in my orientation this week. She's bedbound. She's been bedbound for 11 years with MS. She is so excited because she wants to be volunteering, and she finally found something she can do from home that she feels like she can really make a difference. So we just serve we serve women from all different ages, all different, situations. And being able to do it virtually really does open up the possibility for women um, to join us. No transportation, don't have to worry about childcare.
Mm.
Yeah, I work around your vacations, so we do make it really
And that's so cool that someone with MS who is literally stuck in bed
easy.
gets to help other people who are in need.
Yeah, yeah, it's a beautiful
She's
thing.
not the first one. We've had some others in the past who've had
Yeah,
those types of situations. So,
yeah. Which is just, it's wild that when you think about in most situations, there's some sort of value exchange, and you're hoping that both sides get value. This is one of those things I feel like it's a value multiplication that both sides come out with multiple times more value than they expected just from interacting with each other.
Yes, and it ripples through their families and and their communities and their friends. So it has a big ripple effect beyond just the people who are participating. Because they go home and tell their family the stories, and the learners tell their family the stories, and so
Mm,
we feel like we impact a lot more people than even the 3,000 or that we're working with right now. So it has a big, broad impact.
man, that is really cool.
Mhm.
Is there anything a part of this journey from when it started in like 2018 to now that has surprised you? Or another way of saying is, what's been the most surprising part of this for the two of you?
That's a good question. I think the exponential growth has been surprising to us. Um, I mean, we're not surprised that there's a need out there. I think that's not a surprise, but I think the organic growth of the organization, that it sort of has taken off, that's been surprising in a really great way. What do you think, Chichi?
yeah, I think that the other thing too is that is I love technology. I have found that the impact of going virtual has and doing all our business virtually has and having the whole virtual piece of it be such a primary part of our organization has really been surprising for me. I mean, when we first started doing Zoom, it was out of necessity during COVID, and it's really been in the last 2 or 3 years that we've seen that um, doing things virtually opens up all sorts of other things that can happen, and just totally breaks down these borders that we have. Um, because you're talking to people who are all across the United States, and the hardest thing we have to deal with is these bloody time zones and trying to schedule when you have to schedule a meeting or something like that. But I just have really been impressed by the whole impact that doing things virtually has had, and I sometimes think there's a lot of people out there that just don't understand that this is a new world that we're in now, and it just that we're all together in the ether, and it's just really exciting when you're talking about people coming together who have so many different backgrounds and experiences and stuff like that, and that we can all come together without having to be physically together and have just as rewarding an experience. Um, I talk to a lot of older women who are concerned about, well, I'm only good in person. I think maybe they had some bad technical experiences when they went
Hmm.
through Zoom during COVID, but we deal with technical problems all the time, and you just kind of get used to it. I mean, you deal with problems meeting with people in person. People are late. They have a car accident on the way to the meeting. They have bad breath when they get there, and you have to deal with that. I mean, there's always problems with everything. So, um, I think it's all workable through, and it's just so exciting to have everybody together in this virtual world. I think
Yeah.
that's cool.
And
But I didn't expect that.
when you say rewarding, I think it's more than just rewarding. I think it's really necessary, especially with technology. We have algorithms that are incredible at finding, like when you say we're connected to everyone, those algorithms are really good at finding people like us.
Mhm.
And then, especially when it comes to people who are like us, talking about the other, like you mentioned. I mean, here in the States, a part of our culture is to be accepting of the other, but anytime we get a group of people, even here, we can be, cautious, scared. And when our only exposure is hearing about it. That's, hearing about other people from TikTok. That's not great. And I think that one of the things that stands out to me about this is that you're literally interacting with someone who's from a different country and different from you, which is way healthier than hearing about that person from someone who could have just made that up, or they're just telling their side of the story. And you're hearing a secondhand version at best instead of actually interacting with someone from one of those places or one of those cultures or who has those beliefs.
Tell him a little bit about Laura, about speaking of algorithms, about our English Practice Partners program, because as of a year ago or less than a year ago, we said, well, we can't do more than 120 pairs because Laura was literally looking at the volunteers and the learners who wanted to be matched up and trying to figure out how to put them together. And we knew with this number of growing to 3,000 that we had a lot more people who wanted to do English Practice Partners than we could accommodate. And we were turning people away. So we said, we've got to fix this problem because it's just going to get worse and worse and worse. This was part of the whole growth issue. So we worked with a group of students from an MIS class, Management Information Systems class at UT, University of Texas. Tell them about it. It was pretty amazing.
Oh, yeah. So, yes, I used to do all of the matches by hand. So I would read, maybe we'd have 125, so 250 participants, and I would read everyone. I would read all about them. And then I would think, oh, well, she likes to knit, so I should put her with someone who likes to knit, but they need to be in the same time. So it would take me a full week pretty much to match everybody up. Um, and it limited our program as we're expanding because we know, we have a waiting list for this program. So yes, we worked with a team from UT, and we've worked with them before. It's been one of the creative ways that as an organization with only one full-time employee and a very small budget, we have this wonderful resource in the University of Texas. So this team came together and built a whole kind of algorithm matching system within our database, which the database was also designed by another UT team. So we can match up. It literally maybe takes 90 seconds to match 200 people, 400 people up into 200 pairs. So yeah, it's a
Wow.
wonderful example of how we've had to be creative as an organization with a small budget, and leveraging technology to make to be able to expand our impact and grow with the demand. So yeah, now 200. We have 452 participants this time. I anticipate we'll have more next time. And we have a waiting list this time. So yeah, it's a wonderful program. And yeah.
I was a kid in the 60s, and everybody was talking about, oh, the population is growing so fast, we're going to run out of food and stuff like that. You know, this is technology is one of the ways we've been dealing with having such a growing population. I mean, it's amazing. I can't imagine if we were doing this with paper and pencil. There'd be
Mm,
no way we could serve 4,000 people. We'd have to have a
mm,
staff of 30 or 40 people to be keeping a little card on each volunteer and a little card on each learner. And I mean, I've been in offices all my life, starting from when I was 15. And I worked at the Red Cross, and they had a card on every serviceman who was serving at that point in time, because that's what the Red Cross does. And
yeah.
I can't imagine what they certainly aren't doing that now with the number of servicemen that they have to
Uh-huh.
serve right now. And the same thing is totally true for us. And we have been really fortunate to have the UT right here to help us with some of this. And we've had some great volunteers who stepped forward and said, I've got expertise in data management, and let me help you out, because last fall we were just like, oh my God, we are going to crash and burn because we just have too many people. We can't keep track of them. We can't, we can't, do our programming because of that. We switched over to communicating with texts about 2 years ago. Maybe it's been a year and a half now,
Uh-huh.
because so many of our learners don't have computers. They may not even, they may have a Gmail address, but
Yeah.
they do everything on the phone. And so we needed to really reach out to them by the phone, and even our volunteers. We had a few volunteers who insisted on us sending them email, and we finally just said no. We can't do that.
I
We've
love
got
that.
too many people to talk to. We can't have all these different ways of
Yeah.
communicating. So, um, so another example of technology I didn't expect we would bail us out. So yeah, I find it really interesting.
Yeah. I think that where y'all all have found this cool niche in the sense that you are using technology that's connecting people while actually making a genuine connection with those people and showing them that we genuinely care about them.
Mm. I'll have to have you write some grants for us.
Yeah. I've never written a grant, but I will gladly help. That's not a joke. I'm happy to. My at Novel, I tell people half of my job is just talking, and then everyone else does the real work, and I just talk in meetings. That's my gig.
That's your game. It's not that
Yeah,
good.
yeah. It's not. It's not. It's really talking and then being the cheerleader for everyone else.
Yep.
It's important.
That's
Yep, it's important. That's kind of what we do. We talk and we act as cheerleaders. So,
yeah,
yep, you keep,
which is a big deal.
yeah, it is. It's important
Yeah,
work.
encouragement goes a really long way.
It really does.
Yeah. So I think we talked a little bit about how y'all want to scale in the future, just on your like the internal team resources that you have. Would you say that's the biggest hurdle, or there's other challenges that you have over the next 12 to 24 months that you're tackling?
That's certainly the number one challenge. The
Mm,
number two challenge is transitioning from a working board to a regular board. And then I think the third challenge is paying for all this. Whenever you add staff, up goes
yeah.
your budget really fast. So we need help in making this happen. We need financial help in making this happen. And so one of the UT groups helped us put together a corporate fundraising strategy. We, at this point in time, Laura and I write all the grants. It would be nice to have a staff person that was going to start to work for some more of those grants. But the biggest challenge I think we have right now is that federal funding has been pulled away from so many organizations who are in our space.
Mm,
And so we're going to have a lot of competition for the private grants that are out there
hmm
from organizations that have been around a lot longer, may indeed serve more people than we do, certainly have much bigger budgets than we have,
mm.
and are really hurting. And so we're concerned that we're going to have a lot of competition for the grants that we do go out for. So we rely very much on individual donations as well. So if anyone's interested in listening to this, is
Yeah.
interested in helping us, just go to our website, which is lltaustin.org, and there's a PayPal button there. And there's also an address there if you want to mail a check. And we also, our EIN number is there if you have a private foundation and you want to engage with us through the foundation. So, those I think are the three big challenges. Would you agree, Laura? Yes.
I would agree, Chichi. Those definitely are our challenges.
Yeah. So, and the your checkout process on the website is PayPal?
Yes.
Okay, gotcha. I'll give that a look because I don't want to switch too much onto my like other work hat, but we could we could probably help you build in other things on there if you want.
That'd be great.
Yeah. 'Cause I know not, us youngins, we don't all have PayPal.
Uh,
'Cause- yeah.
That's true.
I don't.
yeah, we should have Venmo or something like
Oh
that.
yeah. Well, we can chat about it. I'm not here to like convince you that you need us. And if someone wants to volunteer with y'all, how would they do that? Is that also on the website?
On the website, there's a tab for volunteer, and then there's a button there that takes you to a form to fill out.
Okay.
And then after you volunteer, you'll hear from Laura pretty quickly. inviting you to come to an orientation. And the volunteer will also start receiving texts inviting them to conversation
Oh
online.
man.
So
Yeah.
they'll hear back from us right away.
It's easy.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that y'all are using text. I'm a big fan of using that to interact with people. I mean, there's some apps that you don't even have a login now. They just send you, when you need to log back in, they just send you a code, text message. You guys are ahead of the game.
Well, it's hard to stay ahead. There's just a lot that we have to pay attention to,
Yeah.
every day. And so we've been very fortunate to have friends who've helped us get started on some of these text things. Shall I
Yeah.
tell them? One of them being our secret weapon, starting out early, was my 11-year-old grandson, who built the website for us and helped us set up PayPal. And I don't know, he did everything. It was just amazing.
He's not a
Was he?
normal 11. He was not a normal 11-year-old. He is not a normal 17-year-old. He's running for the county commissioner right now. He's 17. So he's
I believe
sort of
that's
an
incredible.
exceptional guy.
Yeah, that's wild.
Travis County
Man,
Commissioner, sorry.
the
Yeah.
Travis County Commissioner.
Yeah.
Woo,
Yep. Yep. That's
man.
impressive. Yes.
And he can't even vote yet. He will turn 18 2 days, and he'll have 2 days left to sign up for, to present his petition. So
Yeah,
he's out knocking on doors all
that's
the time now.
man.
So
I love to hear that. Well, I know we're running out of time a little bit. Is there anything that we didn't discuss that y'all were hoping to talk about, or we like skipped over it too quickly?
I don't think so. I think we've pretty much covered everything. It's always great fun to talk about this organization because it's a wonderful thing. It is
Yes.
truly a wonderful thing.
Yes. So just please join us.
I guess
Yeah.
one thing I didn't say, there was this wonderful question you had on here, which was, how do you stay motivated during difficult times?
Oh yeah,
I thought was
please.
a really great question. And my answer, I'll give you my answer and then Laura can give you hers. My answer was Laura, that I feel it's the success of our organization has been because we've had two co-founders, that we've worked together on doing this. And when one of us is slow, the other picks the other person up. When one of us is running maybe too fast on an idea, the other person says, whoa, whoa, wait a minute, wait a minute. Is this part of our mission? Um, and so I couldn't have done this by myself. And it's just been, Laura and I didn't know each other before we started this. We both started it because this is, we wanted to do this organization. And it's just been one of the most rewarding relationships, next to my marriage, that we've had. So I don't know, Laura, you had a different answer, so which was
Well,
just
I
as
had
good.
that answer, but in addition to that, because that is really important, and we would probably tell people who are thinking about starting a nonprofit, to don't do it alone. If possible,
Mm,
find a co-founder, find somebody who you can do it with. It really does make a big difference to have someone
mm,
you can lean on and share ideas. And but also, I think when we're tired, we do a lot. Just coming to a conversation session, Chichi and I always facilitate at least one of our conversation sessions during the week.
mm.
That is motivating. Or I at a volunteer orientation, I just did another volunteer orientation on Monday night. That fires me up. Being,
Mm,
meeting women from all over the country who are passionate about helping, who want to do something. That's always when I know, like, oh yes, this is it. This is why we do this. We
mm,
had even, I was in a session, I guess our last session of our spring series of conversations, and we were talking about our mothers, and that was the topic, our mothers, and Mother's Day. And I was in a group with three learners, and it was emotional. It was a really emotional conversation.
mm,
A couple of us had lost our mothers, the other two, their moms were away. And we were weeping, like women are weeping together. And that connection with women you don't know, but we're just deeply connecting. That's why we do this. That's what keeps us motivated. That's what keeps, I think, our volunteers coming back. That's one way we retain our volunteers, is these really powerful and emotional and deep connections that we can make in just 90 minutes. So that always keeps us coming back for more, and gets us up in the morning.
Addictive. It is sort
It's
of
kind of
addictive.
addictive. It is kind of addictive, and I think our volunteers would say that too, and our learners would say that too. So
Yeah, because I would, to that point, in my experience, connecting with someone who is a stranger, especially someone who's very different from you, has a unique sense of like I a simple way to like there's a different taste or flavor to it, but there's like a different power to it, in my opinion. That you can't get that exact kind of connection with someone who is like you.
yeah, yeah, there is something really when you hit on that, and we really try with our topics to find things that bring us together, that break down any cultural barrier, even like, oh my gosh, you're from this completely different place than me, and yet we have these same feelings,
Yeah,
and we connect deeply over this. It all the differences sort of fall away.
yeah,
So yeah, it's really powerful. Yeah.
yeah.
Yep.
Well, in case I didn't say this prior, thank y'all for doing that. It's even if no one else tells you this, it's a big deal.
Thank you. Thanks, Matt.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Well, we're glad to be here.
So lltaustin.org.
Okay. LLTaustin.org.
Listeners should go to there and they can find everything they could possibly want to learn, including a wonderful video that one of our board members put together.
Yeah, right on. Well, thank you both for taking the time out of your day to do this. It was great talking to y'all.
Likewise. Thanks, Matt. Really appreciate
It's
it.
always fun talking about our mission, so and what we do.
Understandably. Well, y'all have a good rest of your day, and if you guys have any follow-up questions, feel free to shoot them my way.